Hi everyone, welcome to Auntie Emma's Country Kitchen. Today I want to show you a simple way to make kind of a roasted vegetable dish. Sometimes they are called like sheet meals. I think that's the term. But it's basically, you can almost make a whole meal just on one pan. And so it's not just vegetables, you can throw other things in there. What I'm going to do today is asparagus, tofu, and butternuts, squash, and onion, a little bit of onion. Now, the nice thing about these is you can use almost anything you have in the fridge, any kind of vegetables or proteins, whatever you like. The main thing to make sure is that their cooking time is either all similar or you accommodate for different cooking times by the way you chop them. So something that takes longer to cook, you can chop it into smaller pieces, therefore it cooks more quickly. So that's just my little tip, and I will start. I've done this for just numerous things. Just you could do very simple, like potatoes and onions roasted is really good. You can use any kinds of different herbs and seasonings that you want, whatever flavors you like. So let us start with the asparagus. Now, since it is early spring, asparagus are just starting to come into season. So these are kind of the early ones. And some people say that if you snap them, that's where they should break, but I tend to think that loses a bit too much of the stems. So I tend to just cut them off, usually a couple of inches. Just depends on how fresh they are. And if you end up getting some tough pieces, it's usually just the outer peel that's tough, and sometimes they can just be peeled off. So put these over here with the compost stuff. Although I have to admit, I do not compost. I know we're supposed to, but I hate the way that it stinks everything up. My dad has like a little tub for food compost that he keeps on his counter by the sink, but I really hate it. It gets all smelly. I hate that. So normally I would wash these, but I'm not going to this time because it's best if everything is dry. That's the other little tip for roasting vegetables. If you want to wash them, do it way in advance of when you want to cook them, because then you can just let them air dry. Otherwise you have to kind of just dry them yourself, but if they're totally dry, they cook a lot better. So the tougher ends, or the thicker ends, I'm going to cut just about an inch and a half. And then the tips can be a little bit longer. And the other reason I'm not worried about washing these is because these will cook at around 425 to 450 in the oven. So I figure that will kill any bad bugs. But if you're a food scientist, you can tell me why that's not true. It's probably not true. And I love parchment. If you haven't used parchment before, it's great for lining your pans. It's just a lot less washing and scrubbing pans in the end, which I go for that. So we got these. So you can just pile them on your tray willy-nilly. And let's see what else. Butternut squash. Now you can, it's a little cheaper to buy a whole one, but they are a pain to peel and clean and cut. So I was never buying them very much because they were such a pain. So for me personally, it's worth it to get the ones that are already cubed, because then we'll eat them a lot more, and this nutritious squash is a good food to eat anytime you have yellows and reds and oranges in your vegetables. They have a lot of nutrients that you don't always get. So I'm just going to dump this whole thing. This is about a pound and a half. Let's see, 1 pound, 5 ounces. Okay. I'm going to dump those in. Plop. These will shrink quite a bit. So if it seems like you have a lot on your tray, everything's going to shrink. So keep that in mind. Okay, so now I've got nice orange and nice green. Spread them out a bit. I'm running out of paper towels here. So tofu, if you haven't used it very much, it's very versatile. You can buy firm, soft, extra firm. There's all different kinds. Ones that they're pre-baked and with different flavors in them. This is just a very plain, firm tofu. Sometimes you can press them if you want to get the water out, more water out. I'm not going to bother this time because the water will bake out of them. So I like to cut them in about, I don't know, a 1/2 inch maybe, I would say. First cut them down like that. Really nice way to do tofu just for eating or for throwing in with rice or something is cut it into cubes, and then you can put it in a toaster oven on fairly low heat, like 250, and just let them go for 1/2 hour, 45 minutes. They'll slowly start to dry out and get a little bit brown, and that's an easy way to get the water out without going through all the pressing. And then I'm going to cut this into thirds this way. You have to be careful, of course. It's not the best way to cut towards your hand. Don't do this unless you're very careful. And then we'll just cut them this way, and you end up with lots of little cubes. These will also shrink in the oven. Okay, so I'm going to add these to the tray. Just spread them around. Today turned out to be really nice and sunny. We have had rain forever, feels like. Thunderstorms, rains, floods, you name it, snow. And I thought it was going to be rainy again today, but we actually have some nice sunshine. It feels so good. I took a walk with Shasta earlier, and we just both loved walking in the sun. It wasn't too windy, still a little cool, but definitely not cold like it has been. Okay. So now the onion. I love this cutting board. This is like maple, I think. I've had it forever, and I don't know, it's just really great cutting board. I know they have different kinds, but I like the wooden ones, I guess. So onion, I tend to chop something like an onion on a paper towel, just because it prevents the cutting board from tasting like onion for the next week or smelling like onion. So this is a really large yellow onion. I already used half the other day, so I'm going to just use the rest of it. So cut off the stem, whatever that's called. As you get older, words do not come to you. You may, depending on your age, you may have noticed this. Words that you know very well and you've known all your life, suddenly they're just not there for you. They usually come eventually. Sometimes it takes a few seconds, sometimes it takes a few minutes, sometimes they never come. So this has the see, I can't even think of that part of the onion that you don't want. The core, whatever it's called, the tough part, the middle part. So I'm just going to cut that out so nobody gets a bite of that. And I'm just going to cut these willy-nilly. Doesn't matter too much. So none of these are really vastly different in their cooking time, so I'm not worried too much about the cutting things into different sizes. They're all fairly similar. Let's see. I also have some yellow summer squash, which I was thinking of putting in here, but I forgot to get it out of the fridge, and now I'm tethered to the microphone. You can probably see the wire over there. I should probably I'm guessing they have wireless lavalier mics. I would think that they would, Bluetooth and all that. That would be a lot handier. But for now, I've just got this mic, which was better than before when I just used to use the mic on the iPad, and you guys couldn't hear me very well. So I know this is a little bit better. All right, so spread around the onion. So everything's kind of evenly mixed around, more or less. Don't worry too much about that, because you'll be stirring it a few times while it bakes. So as you can see, I've got the tray here, and what else? I'll put the tray up here. Got some cherry tomatoes here. I don't know if they'll work very well. You could put them in, but mostly they'll just let all their liquid out and you'll end up with some skin, so probably not that great. Now I usually add olive oil. You can add other kinds of oil, whatever you want, vegetable oil. If you want kind of a Asian flavor, you could add just a little sesame oil. you know, coconut oil, whatever you are comfortable with. And you can put in, I don't recommend putting too much, maybe a couple tablespoons. You don't want it to be too oily. It just helps keep it moist. And for seasonings, as I said before, sky's the limit. Whatever you like, you could do like a Mexican style, you know, with chili peppers and some cumin and cayenne pepper and oregano. You could do Indian style with turmeric. Excuse me. I'm going to do sort of an Italian style that goes with the olive oil. And rather than individual herbs, you could use, you know, oregano, basil, throw some parsley on, put some capers if you like capers. Really, whatever you feel like. It's very forgiving type of recipe. But since this is simple country cooking, I'm just going to use this Italian herb seasoning, which is several different things. What is all is in here? Spices and herbs. Well, they don't tell you what spices. Includes black pepper, rosemary, chili pepper, garlic, onion, sea salt, tomato, and parsley. The nice thing about this is it's big chunks, and so there's a little grinder on top. And my neighbor actually gave me this. I think it was a stocking stuffer, because normally I don't buy these mixes that often. I buy the individual ones. But this is kind of fun because you could turn and get freshly ground spices. So go around, you distribute this. I don't know how much. I would say probably equivalent of like a teaspoon or so. According to my dad, I under season everything, so maybe you should take that into account and add more. Let's see. And you can always add, of course, salt and pepper at the end. A little squeeze of lemon juice might be good. Or a splash of balsamic vinegar would be really good. All right. Now this has a little bit of salt in it, but not very much, I don't think. So I'm going to add a little bit of salt, trying to cut back on salt. So I recommend that you add a little, but not too much, because you can, again, when it's all done and then you taste it, you can add more. And you could add fresh ground pepper. I'm going to add, since my husband and I both tend to like spicy things, not too spicy, but a little bit spicy. I'm going to add some crushed red pepper flakes. Let's see. I like to put these in my hand first so I can kind of control how much I put, because you don't want to accidentally add like a giant amount of hot spices, unless you really like them. So that's probably good. Just adds a little kick. And I think, one last tip now. Generally speaking, with roasted vegetables, if you look at recipes, it says to do them in a hot oven, uncovered. But what I found when I'm doing this is that, well, two things. One, some things tend to dry out too quickly. And two, sometimes the edges of things will start to burn before everything else is done. Particularly like an onion, the edges of the onions start to get black, or usually it's onions or potatoes. Sometimes will start to get black before everything else is done. So my little trick to avoid that and to make sure everything's well cooked, because sometimes the other thing is things mostly seem cooked, but then you end up getting some chunks or some vegetables that aren't as well cooked. So my trick is to cover it at first with good old aluminum foil. This is a new box. This is remarkably heavy, I guess because it is a heavy metal. Aluminum is a metal. I don't know if it's a heavy metal at all. Or try not to be too noisy with this. Okay, that's loud. Sorry about that. I should have done that before. So I cut it about 1 inch too short. Because it doesn't fold over. Could just leave it loose. But it tends to sometimes lift off. I think I can wrap the corners a little bit. So I would put this in the oven. You could start at 425, or if your oven tends to run a little cool, you can try 450, but I recommend starting at 425 until you get the feel for it. And then after about, I would say 20 to 30 minutes, take it out, lift off the foil, take your spatula and kind of stir things around. Everything should be starting to really cook well by then. There will be some steaming action because of the cover, and that's okay because it helps them cook more thoroughly. And if you feel like they're well on their way, I would say probably 30 minutes. They should be pretty well on their way. But you can just kind of be the judge how close they are to being done. But at some point, probably between 30 to 40 minutes, when you think they're mostly done, then take off the foil, put them back in, and that's when you will get the final cooking, and that's when you'll get the browning. So you're still going to get the browning as if you had roasted them, but this way they'll be a little moister, and they'll be more sure to be cooked through. Probably, well, depending on what your veggies are and how they're chopped, I would say by 45 minutes they should be done. But, be checking them in the last 15 minutes if you notice they're getting to like a burnt feeling, a burnt look or smell. You can always cover them up again for a little bit longer. If they're not browning, if you feel like they're done, like you poke your fork in and everything seems like they're done, but you want a little more brown and crispy, you can turn on the broiler and then just run them through the broiler for a couple of minutes. You always watch when you're broiling because it's super hot. Heat just from the top, depending on how close your pan is to the flame, or if you have electric oven, to the coils, I guess. It'll depend on how long they'll brown, but they will definitely brown, so you'll still get that brown crispy coating. You can always get that with the broiler, if you left the foil on too long. So that's it for my pan, sheet pan. What is that term that they use? It's kind of in vogue right now. A sheet pan meal or something like that. But that's my version. You can use whatever you've got in your fridge, on your counters. You can onion, potato, squashes. You can even do cruciferous vegetables, like Brussels sprouts are really good this way. Broccoli cut up in little pieces. I've done that. Could even have fresh corn, whatever. So I'm going to put these in the oven, and then I will come back and show you when they are done. Okay. So here we have the finished product. It took longer than I thought. I would suggest maybe 40 minutes covered, because I took the cover off at 30 and it still needed to go like almost 30 more minutes to cook. So, but you could see everything could get a little browner. I could do it under the broiler if I wanted a little bit of that crispier look on top. But you can see some of the tofu has a little brown flecks. And I also wanted to show you just a serving suggestion. Now you could put it on rice, would be good. You could mix it with pasta. I happen to have some couscous. This is whole wheat couscous, which I really like because it cooks. You could make it in like 5 minutes, but just a nice little grain. And then you could spoon some on top like that. And then I think a little lemon's good. Put a few squeezes of lemon. And I also have some wait a second. It's still pretty hot. I have some vegan feta cheese. If you want a little extra something. This comes in cubes and you can just crumble it up a little bit. On top. Melt in very nicely. I'm definitely out of paper towels now. Anyway, so you could sprinkle a little parsley on there or whatever you want, but just gives you an idea of a nice dish you can have. And take out any lemon seeds. Recommend that. And that's it. So I hope you enjoyed this. Look, there's another lemon seed out here. And I hope it gives you some inspiration to cook something yourself and have fun and experiment. And I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.